Harvard Business School, we had a very interesting class in which they asked us, do you want to be rich or do you want to be king? Do you want to own 20% of a 1,000 crore business or 100% of a 100 crore business?
Yeah.
And my approach since then had been to be king, just because I wanted to make sure that I have control of my business. And one of the byproducts of owning 100% of a large company is that you become the richest woman. I told my dad once, I said, you know what, there's something that I know that you will never learn. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you know? And I said, being a rich man's daughter. And I'm very open about the fact that I come from a very privileged background.
Yeah.
And so my insight is a lot more of a woke Indian audience. I'm not the person who understands that absolute,
Retail
bottom of the
market.
pyramid of the market.
Yeah.
So even when I was making my products, I said, first I need to sell to people who I understand, who are like me, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
There's no point of being someone who has had no exposure to rural India and then say, let's do a business out there. People have this mindset of when they see women, they underestimate us. They just constantly feel that, acha, she must have inherited it. Like when I was getting an award, he's like, oh, you come to collect this on behalf of your father. And I was like, no, I'm the founder. And even when I was at the Forbes conference in Singapore in September, I gave my business card to this NRI uncle type, and he was just like, oh, beta, your family has given you a big responsibility, you must value it. I'm like, excuse me, I'm the founder.
Yeah.
And then I was at a social party where someone said like, so when did your husband start View? And I was like, I'm the founder.
Thanks Devita for coming in and joining us today. I'm very excited to be speaking with you. So Devita, you're like the richest self-made women in India under 40. I want to ask you, what do you really attribute your success to?
You know, when I was in Harvard Business School, we had a very interesting class in which they asked us, do you want to be rich or do you want to be king? Do you want to own 20% of a 1,000 crore business or 100% of a 100 crore business?
Yeah.
And my approach since then had been to be king, just because I wanted to make sure that I have control of my business and can steer it in the direction where I see the opportunity in the future. So I didn't dilute much of my equity, but I took a long time to build a solid business.
Yeah.
The idea was not to not take investors. I'm definitely very open to it. But the idea was to see my strategy, my idea, my vision come to fruition. And one of the byproducts of owning 100% of a large company is that you become the richest woman.
Correct. And by far I've read that you have crossed 1,000 crore revenue now?
1,000 crore, yes. Yes, so we're working on more growth areas for the business, and so that's why it's good that it's 2023, the year has just begun.
Yeah.
And we're always working on growth plans, but we've just launched in the Middle East, outside of India.
Yeah.
So I think that's also going to be a major market driver for us.
Yeah, but now that you have set your foot in India, do you also plan to go public anytime in the future?
I hadn't necessarily thought of it, because one of the biggest challenges I see with the IPO markets in India is, they're a little too volatile.
Yeah.
So for me, opportunities have always been there, but I want to make sure that we have a very long-term approach and not the sort of unicorn, quick exit perspective. Someone who wants to invest in the business, or even my vision for the business is to build a brand very solidly over long term, and not be just carried away by whatever is the current trend.
Yeah.
So never say never. But in the past 1-2 years, we had the option, but I said let the market be a lot more stable before we do that.
Yeah, but that requires a lot of patience and resilience. Not just that, but also, running your business for more than 15 years now and making it walk on the path of sustainability and profitability. So how do you build that within yourself? Because today the world is so competitive and cutthroat that people just want to grow through off the roof, and they don't care about their margins or their cash flows. So how did you have this patience to keep building?
I think one of the biggest things for me personally is, and I'm not someone who's very competitive, as in I have a strong vision of what I want to do and grow. But I'm not one of those people who, reads things and you think, oh my God, this person is doing an IPO, oh my God, this one's valuation is so and so, this one's doing so and so. I think it's very important when you're a leader to have a direction and steer to that direction. People who don't have a good idea of where they want their business to go, please don't become entrepreneurs and CEOs. You're just basically, just trying to do growth at all costs.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, sort of having the blinkers, focusing on my work, not unnecessarily getting swayed by what other people are doing, or getting any kind of FOMO just because I read about someone else's success. For me, it's always been to focus on my vision, and I don't think it's very hard to build a business over a long period of time and sustain it if you're very true to your own vision and who you are and what you want to do.
Yeah, that's right. But that also requires a very strong character of yourself, that I will stick to my gut and I won't really get swayed away by what the public is saying or doing.
Yeah, I think steadfastness is definitely one of the most important virtues of a leader. And I think today what happens that businessmen become entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs have become sort of leaders, business leaders. And it's very important to have these qualities in you. If you don't, and if you're someone who has a great product idea, want to be in business for a quick buck, definitely find on the partners.
Yeah.
But I would say that if you're someone who is very resolute, then find partners also who have that same kind of maturity and long-term thinking.
Right. So who were your partners in business when you started out?
Well, definitely my father. He is someone who I trained with earlier. Then I started my own company, and then a couple of years later, my business had a higher profit margin, and he joined my business. So he and I kind of work like partners right now in the business, and that's great because he brings in a lot of experience in the tech space and sourcing, manufacturing, financing, legal, and for me it's always been about product development, marketing, distribution, branding. So working together with him has sort of been, the biggest partnership that we've been in.
Got it. Also, let me take a step back and delve into your past, where you had started with your education right from your school to college and then working with your dad for a couple of years until you launched Woo. So how did all of that phases in your career shape up?
Well, let me tell you something. I was never a topper. When I was in school, honestly, I would say that I was a very naughty child, just because I was very curious and very active as a person. And even as a teenager, I would say that I was someone who's very in a way dynamic. I'd be like choreographing the college dance or start my own student organization, or I worked in the college newspaper, or I used to be part of different quiz champion. So even as a young person, my focus had always been very broad, to look at the world in a larger perspective rather than just sort of be lost academically in my books. And fortunately, from the background that I came from, my brother and I were always treated very equally. So, I mean, I was taken for AGMs, dealer meetings, factory visits, my brother and I, from the time we were kids. So we grew up with that environment where you really looked at, as I said, a broader view of the world. I decided at the age of 18 to move to California because I felt Silicon Valley is where all the action is. And definitely my time there inspired me to build a global brand because I was like, you know what, I've got the same education as people in the US. Secondly, it gave me the opportunities to start my own thing because I started a student organization in the US which was super successful.
What was it named?
Global Business Leaders.
Okay.
And then in the future I could start my own company. And I think just overall understanding marketing, I think, was very important because Americans are the best at that, right? And the discipline and structure that American companies bring in. So all these things in my education really then helped me get into business. I was not honestly a very padhaku student. My professor in the US once told me, either you're a 95% student or you're an 80-85% student with 3 hobbies. And I think the second one was more my approach. But I've always loved business school. So I went to USC, but I did courses at London School of Economics, in ISB, in UC Berkeley, and most recently I finished my OPM, which is an MBA for CEOs at Harvard Business School.
Okay.
So I just graduated in March.
Wow. How was your experience like? How were your peers? What were they into?
It was very interesting. When I first went, I was the youngest in my class by a mile.
Okay.
So then I took a break and went a few years later. It was very interesting to see, when people have this mindset of, especially family businesses, they think that, oh my God, these people are just sort of, living it up while professionals are running it. That's not true. At the end of the day, the professional manage your business. But what they call splitting your head into a family member, a business owner and management, you have to look at the decisions in a very broader perspective. And I think that's what the HBS course taught me, is more than being a great business manager is to be a great business owner.
But how did you make sure that the team trusts you more and listens to whatever you say, because sometimes in family businesses people only look up to the man who created the business in itself, but of course it was a big step for you to create Woo, which was away from your father's business. So how did you build that initial team of yours who could look up to you and build with the same vision as yours?
I think one of the first things that I did was start with a smaller team. So, in the beginning, don't be like in a hurry to hire 200 people.
Yeah.
I would say in the beginning, have a smaller team, and we used to have something called all-staff meetings, where everyone from the most junior most to the most senior employee, there'd be like 15 of us, would sit every month in the boardroom, order pizza, and have meetings full day of everyone sharing what they're doing. And then, of course, my vision and direction for that month or quarter or year. And I think that team really, then it was a lot of learning that I had to put into them. For example, never feeling that as an Indian-owned company, we're lesser than any foreign brand.
Yeah.
Or not just focusing on price cutting and gaining market share, but also on profitability. Not just being competitive and hierarchical, but respecting your colleagues, because it takes people of different skill sets to build a team.
Yeah.
And once that culture was built in, then over the years, as these people built their own teams, that sort of culture and vision then went throughout the company.
Yeah. So how many people were there in your initial team?
Yes, 5, 10.
And how did you manage to get them? Do you have any hiring stories that you'd like to share?
You know what? Honestly, it's I don't really look at hiring people based on the skill set necessarily or the background, because what happens is that when people come from a very known company, very often they tend to come with their preconceived notions of what the industry norms are. कि ये industry में ऐसा ही होता है, industry का नियम है. And for me, who was trying to do something different, I needed people who had subject knowledge but were more flexible and open.
Yeah.
So I don't say that anybody I hired was CXO level or an IIT, IIM. I actually hired people who are very basic, but had a strong work ethic and great belief. And from there we built it. I don't think that just raising money and hiring 5 CXOs is going to do the job for you.
Yeah, that's true. And in a startup, you really need somebody who can take the ownership and can do everything with a flexible mindset and not come to you and say, oh, this was not there in my job description.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. You give them a job and they're like, hello, high water, we'll try and get it done.
Yeah, that's right. And from there on, how did it grow to a team of, how many do we have?
So now we have about 300 people.
Okay.
Again, all knowledge workers, mostly like engineers, management, etc. We don't have that much blue collar labor because we get our products made by Foxconn, which is the world's largest contract manufacturer. And I've personally not been a big fan of being both a marketer and a manufacturer. So I follow the Apple model of having more white collar employees and letting the manufacturing being done by someone outside.
Right. Does it help you save you on your inventory costs that way?
Definitely sometimes it can save you on your working capital because you don't have that much of your capital deployed into major assets. The biggest challenge is, when you're having a business which is consumer oriented and you have to make sure that the product is, very fast go to market, very fast being able to stop a product that's not doing well, bump up production of what's doing well, keep up with the trend, make changes, then it's better to not be the manufacturer, because when you're a manufacturer, you want to amortize the cost of the investment of the product. So you're sort of thinking on economies of scale. Here you're thinking of speed.
Right.
So it's like Zara has a business model like that, where they have all these factories across the world of third parties.
Correct.
And they reduce the time to market from the industry average of 35 days to 14 days. Because they're focused on the consumer, they're focused on the speed of the market and the trends and keeping up with that, and not getting bogged down by the metrics of manufacturing.
So was Foxconn your manufacturing partner for every time that you
in more recent times, we've set up a factory in India, one for Sony and one for View. So we've been working with them because the government policies across for electronics imports have changed over the years.
Correct.
So we've signed them up more in the past few years.
Understood. But I want to really ask you this question also, that what made you not join your father's business permanently and really start something of your own where you could create a name for yourself?
I always say that the child of an entrepreneur is going to be an entrepreneur. As they say, sher ka bacha sher hota hai. So for me, I always had that drive that, I want to be an entrepreneur. Secondly, again, entrepreneurs are very good at finding market opportunities. And I could see that there was a sort of seismic shift happening in the landscape of the Indian consumer post the 2000s era because salaries were increasing, the economy was more stable and growing. And so I felt that a brand which is based on budget or maybe for a baby boomer Gen X mindset may not work for a generation that's millennial and then of course now Gen Z. So keeping in mind the consumers changing lifestyle and habits and parameters was where I came up with this.
Okay.
The second thing, I felt that the industry again was very male. You know, it was very all about like ego and just wanting to achieve market share even if it came at the cost of a loss, and terrible like customer experience, cognitive dissonance where people would buy a product and be unhappy. And I said, you know what, the product's great, it impacts people in a very positive way, but the industry itself is in shambles. And so I said, why don't I bring in learning from the luxury world and the retail world and the women's fashion world or whatever different airline, whichever world, hospitality, and bring those best practices into the tech world to make the business where you are profitable, your customers are happy. It's equally about the senses than the science. The brand has a great pull, the retail experience is great, the customer service is excellent. So these are many things that I looked at that point, which coming in fresh into the business, I could see this is where I feel there'll be an opportunity in the future.
Yeah, understood. And did you have to convince anyone that I am entering the market, or you?
It took a long time because you know what happened is when we used to go meet dealers and retailers, there used to be a moat set up that back then by a lot of large companies who had strong deals with the retailers, and so if it was a smaller company it was difficult. But this was also a time when a lot of organized retail was coming into India, so I could partner with many of them because View, Chroma, Reliance, all of them started at the same time, and then of course once we moved to online is when the J curve took off and could grow. So there's always a way around it. If an industry has a very strong set pattern, there's always new people entering who you can partner with.
I mean, hearing this, I'm just thinking and imagining how would everything fall into place, when you thought of an idea and started building up. So let me just take you back to the drawing board, and if you were now 24 years old and now you've thought that this is what the market is, you've studied that your product will work, how will you go about it? What today will you do? What will be the next day's agenda if you want to build
That's a great question. I think today the market is a lot more evolved, so the stage of experimenting is gone. Today you do definitely need like deeper pockets, but I would stick to my plan of reaching a more high-end quality educated buyer. I would probably hire a stronger, bigger digital team. I would probably I would have to think this through, but I think I would probably keep my approach for product innovation the same and keep the company culture the same. Probably just deploy more money in more people. I think that's something that's going to be required today, is that kind of organic growth opportunities are lesser today.
Correct.
But the good thing with that, with being able in today's day and age be able to start a business, is that a lot of things you don't have to fight for. Things are already set. For example, a lot of gender battles and all that were there when I was entering, which aren't there today. So it's not gonna be a waste of my time just go to meetings and proving myself. Today people are open to doing business with women, or people are very open-minded to listening to younger people. So those things which took me a lot of time to set up, I think I'd save time on that and then grow the business faster with same business plan, same mindset, same leadership thinking.
Got it. But of course, success is also a part of many challenges, and you said that you had to prove your point to a lot of people back then who were male manufacturers, or the company in which you were might be a room full of men and very few women to be spotted. So how did you make your way through that and still got your work done?
I don't think if you want to get work done, you need to have women in the meeting. In fact, there's a very interesting article that I was reading the other day in the Wall Street Journal, which said when there are two women in a meeting, even if they've just met, assume that there's a sense of friendship between them. Whereas with men, it's just seen very professionally. So I don't think you require to have like, oh my god, oh there's a woman in the room, that's why I'm comfortable, I can do business here.
Yeah.
I don't think. You stick to your job. Hey, this is my product, this is the price, this is my vision, this is what you and I can do together.
Yeah.
I think you just have to be very straightforward. You don't have to look for that comfort zone in every area.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point, because a lot of women tend to seek comfort. I mean, not all of them, but some of them. And I think doing what you're doing and keeping at it really makes you where you are, and clearly you're an example of it. But speaking on the pricing front, how did you decide that this is the luxury market I want to tap into? What was the vision behind starting Woo?
So this is a funny thing that I told my dad once. I said, you know what, there's something that I know that you will never learn. And he's like, what do you mean? What do you know? And I said, being a rich man's daughter. And I'm very open about the fact that I come from a very privileged background.
Yeah.
And so my insight is a lot more of a woke Indian audience, an educated, high-earning Indian audience, SEC B, B+, A+, and a global audience. I'm not the person who understands that absolute, like, you know,
Retail
bottom of the
market.
pyramid of the market.
Yeah.
So even when I was making my products, I said, first I need to sell to people who I understand, who are like me, and I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
There's no point of being someone who has had no exposure to rural India and then say, let's do a business out there. Stick to first the audience that you know, and then sort of grow it from there, because in today's consumer businesses, you have to have very strong consumer insights, and those insights have to be coming in very regularly.
Yeah.
So you have to be in that place where you're surrounded by people who are potential customers, so that you kind of can figure out your next steps going ahead. Which is why the positioning and the pricing of the business for me has always been actually more than the Chinese brands or Indian brands, etc. Very close to the Japanese brands.
Understood. And how did you market it? Organically or inorganically,
Full-time
also
job.
to get clients? I mean, that's the most difficult
Full-time
part.
job. I think marketing is something that I love. It's very close to my heart. I can do it at 3 a.m. But I think what happens is marketing changes every year.
Yeah.
It used to be very event-based, PR-based, advertising and print-based, etc. Now things, of course, are a lot more digital, more social, more interactive. So marketing is one of those spaces where I feel like a 24-year-old every day. You know, I have to literally start on a clean set and, okay, my team, what's trending now?
Yeah.
What are you working on? What are people excited about, you know? So marketing is something where you can't be an expert. You kind of have to maintain that youthfulness.
Correct.
If you're a marketer. And then keep working on things which are relevant, which give you that sort of positioning and reach. And different activities that you do, both in terms of the content that you make and the avenues where you showcase that work.
Yeah, you have to have that learner's mindset to be able to do that, because
you know, no marketer can say that, oh, I have so much industry experience, I know it all. You'll be fired.
Yeah, that's right. But how was it to get your first client? Do you remember who were they?
You know what? My first store I opened up in Nariman Point. It was very interesting because I used to have this concept called a digital home, which I had built with all kinds of gadgets which were ahead of its time. Like, we're the first ones to do a Bluetooth speaker, we're the first ones to do a TV with a PC attached, we're the first ones to do AI driven products, first ones to do back then like AR, VR glasses. So we used to have a lot of people come in who would be interested in these products, again very niche. And many of those people who bought those products also continue to buy over the years. But for me personally, again, because today we have over 35 lakh customers.
Wow.
So the purpose as a that time business owner was not to do personal selling, was more to set up retail where then you can sort of build pools of customers.
Understood. I mean, we have this Woo television in our conference
room. Oh, you do? Good choice. I'm glad I'm doing this interview. I'm always happy to go to offices and they have new TV.
And what do we do out of it, you know? Whenever a concert is happening at Geo Gardens, we just zoom in with your camera and the clarity, oh my god, it's 100% clear.
That I have to see this. Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
We're big on Woo televisions whenever it comes to conference rooms.
Thank you. Very happy. Wow, I've never heard that case study. See, that's the thing. When you get educated, quality customers, you get a lot of like UGC, user generated content, because people then use their brain to sort of make it their own thing. You're not just like pushing a low price product to a very basic buyer. You're sending it to someone who is innovative themselves and smart, and so you give them the right tools and they will come up with your next idea.
It's not like you're just selling a television which they will put it on their wall and just
I can't sell boring products.
I've
had so many opportunities to do products which are, I don't know, an AC or a fridge or something. I'm like, listen, I can't do boring products. If I'm not excited, my customer's not going to be excited. So my lab and I are working on a lot of new products this year, outside of TVs, again, which are innovative and fun.
Wow, do you mind telling us a little bit? Okay, we will wait for it until it's launched.
Yes, you will know.
But how do you innovate always? How do you come up with these ideas?
So when I was starting my company, actually I worked very closely with Intel on to develop a product development lab out of India. So Mattel in the US has this NPD lab approach where it's not R&D, it's NPD, where you're looking at a human factors approach of creating products. And I thought that was very interesting. So I went myself to the world's top innovation labs, like MIT Media Lab, IDEO, that does all the work for Apple. There was ITRI, which is Taiwan's innovation lab, Intel's innovation labs in Oregon, etc. And I said, let me understand product development, product design, the human factors approach to creating products as opposed to just R&D. And so a very strong team whose job is to keep coming up with new products.
That's nice. And your job is to like really manage them and keep them driven, which is the most difficult part, by the way.
You know what? Even if you're successful, everyone's driven on their own. The biggest thing is you gotta, like, as they say, nothing succeeds like success. So I think when a lot of my team members were younger, it used to be a bit of a fight mode that people should know of you. Today, for a lot of them who've been in the company, even though they must have got offers from a lot of competitors, and they've stayed in, and someone tells them, oh, you work for View. How long you been there? And they're like, oh, 15 years. And they're like, oh my God. They're like, yeah, we started it with the... So the sense of pride comes in, then they're kind of just driven on their own. So I think it's very important to build a sense of pride in your team, retain them over a period of time, and then from the outside gratification comes in, it just completely makes their day.
I know. When you get customer appreciation, I think that's the best
I think
part.
For most people, the appreciation when they get it from their own family, extended family, friends, I think that makes a big difference in India culturally. You know, your relative comes and says, oh my God, your son is working in View, acha, he's done really well, and your parents are happy. I think that I've seen with my employees like drives them like to another level.
Wow, that's so good to know. But how did the name come in place?
You know what, View stands for vision. It's VIW. So I've always been someone who looks for a very long-term approach. So I said, what's your view, what's your vision? Because the word view reflects both vision and opinion. And so that's how the company name came about.
Wow. And when was this?
2005 end. 2005, 2006. I started working on the business plan for View around December 2005. And I opened my first store in July 2006.
That was quick.
It's been a while.
But
the name is still good.
It is. And I'm sure you'll expand internationally very soon. But I've seen a lot with people going abroad that they want to expand into the Middle East market first whenever they're expanding internationally. So what is it with this region?
I think what the number of Indians who are there. But more than that, I think it's just because those markets have become very open to foreign brands. So what has happened is earlier, if you were doing business in the Middle East, it was like you're some kind of low-cost supplier. Today, when we're reaching the Middle East, it's not to reach just the Indians, it's to reach the entire audience. And also position it as a high-end brand out there. So I think the Middle East, like retail, has really matured in these markets, which is why they're probably like the next stepping stone. Of course, proximity and geography makes a huge difference. Like today, I may have a great opportunity to sell in Mexico, but it's going to take a month to get there. Then my cost of shipping is higher, then I can't compete with locally produced. So I would say it's just maturity of the market, opportunity, size of the market, proximity, and again like management, etc.
Understood. And you have told this in so many of your interviews that you look up to your dad a lot for whatever suggestion you would want to run your business. So what are some of those top 3 or 5 suggestions that he's given to you so far?
I think one thing that I really appreciate about him is he's a very future-oriented person. I remember a few years back, I told him that I want to build a museum of all the products we've done. And he said, no, you know what, you should look towards the future. So make a showcase of your futuristic products rather than getting into the past. So that's one thing that I learned from him, is always like, being very youthful by looking at the future. The second thing that I learned from him, of course, is a lot of discipline. He's someone who's very focused on making sure that, whether he's working on the inventory, whether he's working on his own health, whether he's working on building a team. Like, he's very structured in his day, which I kind of like. And I think that's very important. A lot of women, when they ask me, like, how do you build a business? I'm like, sometimes that's basic as going to work every day at this time and coming back at that time. So as my professors would say, a routine sets you free. He's very disciplined, which I think builds a strong foundation to then build the empire on. And the third thing I would say is a lot of openness and kindness. So like whenever he deals with people, he doesn't see age, gender, background, religion. He treats everyone very equally. And especially the younger people, he's very open-minded to not being like, oh my god, I know everything. He's very like, oh cool, they got something new. So I remember when I was moving the business to a more digital format, and nobody was convinced, and but he was still open to it, that okay, this sounds interesting. So I think that openness is very important, along with just being nice to people. I think that's one thing people feel, that as a boss you got to be like this hard ass. Of course you do, but you also have to be like not personal about it. You have to be strict with people but still emotionally take care of them.
But what would your dinner table conversations be about when you were staying with them, and who was in its initial?
So I still have dinner with my family every day.
Okay, nice.
And the conversation is just all over the place. It can be business, it can be technology, it can be some trend that I saw in the market, or politics or whatever. So it's always very intellectual and interesting. It's never about other people. ये लोग ये कर रहे हैं, इनके घर में ये चल रहा है, etc.
Very distractive.
And I think what happens with a lot of families, they spend too much time worrying about society. I think the number one way to succeed is to put your family before society. You kind of this log kya kahenge. There's so many decisions that I have made that weren't very accepted within the South Bombay Marwari business society per se, because they're quite conservative for that matter. But my family was always like, no, your potential and your dreams come first. Sort of let people say what they want to say. And I've always followed that approach even for myself. And then the mindset is more like, as they say, zamana humse hai, hum zamane se nahi. So I think that is very important, that the family conversation is more about the potential of the individual, the business, the family, and not about comparing to others or being too worried about what others will say. People talk crap in any case. So you know what? Just do what you want.
I mean, that's a very good piece of advice that people would want to hear.
I think it's super important. I think so many people I know, their biggest challenge in life is they're just too consumed with like a microcosm of this culture, that oh my god, this is like my club or my society or my religion or wherever, and I'm just going to stay within that. No, please, the world is a big place. Stop limiting your own growth by trying to fit in. When you're successful, anyways, everyone invites you. So don't bother.
That's true. But now that you're successful, let me also ask you, what was your definition of success when you were just 24 and thought of starting a business of your own, and how has it changed over the course of your life till now?
A couple of things, right? I think when I was 24, the mindset was more like, I was just happy to have a career. I come from a background, I'm half Marwari, half UPI, and I've seen in my extended family, the mindset has always been, and this is pretty much true for a lot of India and definitely true for a lot of North India, etc., is that it's a woman's job to find the right guy and then help him realize his potential. And I was like, listen boss, I don't see much ROI in that. I have my own brain, I have my support system, I have an education. Why not I just promote myself? So I think for me that time I was just happy to have a career. I was just happy that listen, I can be in this space where I can build a business, do my thing, have that strong vision, not sort of just putting in my youth into somebody else's dreams. So that I think was a very focused approach that I had when I was 24, that I'm just happy to be working. Today, I think now it's a question of building that balance. Where you're like, okay, great, I've built this business and I made all this money. Now, how am I going to build a more balanced life? And along with that balance, how do I have better impact? So that women get inspired not just professionally, but also personally, and then doing things that sort of reach and make societal changes. So that is how I see what drives me differently between then and now.
Understood. But like, what is your threshold of having achieved bigger things in life? Because it is endless circle of demands and desires, right? So when do you really put a line to it, when you say that, okay, I've achieved this? And how do you really still stay restless and conquer the other goal that you might have to achieve in your life, that, okay, this is not enough, I want more of it?
You know what, I'm not one of those people who has had this mindset of like, oh, I'll be happy when I'll be successful. I've always been a happy person by nature.
Yeah.
So it's never like, oh, I've reached here and now what? It's more like an everyday thing, you know. It's like, if you're studying, you just think of going from first standard to second standard to third standard. You don't go like, acha, third standard pahunch gaye, fourth standard mein kya karna?
Yeah.
You don't think like that, right? Even a career should be the same way. Okay, we've gotten to here, now what's next? What's next? You build it slowly, steadily over a period of time. And then of course find different opportunities in between.
Right.
If you have this very like resolute date, ki nahi, I want to become like a billionaire by this age, or I want to be a unicorn within so many months, or I want to be on this, I don't know, list by this age. What's going to happen is that your life will be very much divided into like a before and after. And business is a very long, continuous journey.
Yeah.
I think that your education generally lasts for about 18 to 19 years.
Right.
Business is double or triple of that.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to make sure that you don't have this mindset of stoppages or like hard deadlines or something.
Yeah.
You get somewhere, enjoy it, you know, have a drink, look back like, oh wow, amazing, did this. Okay, now let's do the next thing.
Yeah. That's a very positive mindset to have. But let me ask you, did yoga change it for you? Because you are a lot into it. I've read it.
You know what, I will have to, my yoga teacher, she's going to be like, you have to say something. But I've always been, I read a very nice line on Instagram this morning, which I might make my bio. It said, entrepreneur's mind, athlete's body, artist's soul.
Wow.
And I thought that is such a fantastic
Very
fundamental, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been someone, especially because of the face of my business, and I've looked good in pictures.
Yeah.
But I've always been someone who is quite into fitness and you know, making sure that I remain healthy. Because and so for that, I've been into dance. I have a pool in my building. I cycle around Bombay. I do work out in the gym. I have yoga classes, all kinds of stuff. Because I find a lot of people, and I find it's very true for a lot of Indians especially, it's kind of sad, but the mindset is more like, oh my god, this is the business and I got to work and sacrifice myself for the business. And then they get all kinds of like health issues and personal issues, and it's very sad to see some really, really promising entrepreneurs like, you know, die at a young age just because the business was built at the cost of them. So earlier this year, when I was working on my sort of plans for 23, I was reading an article of how important it is to align your personal needs with your professional goals. And so all the yoga and fitness and dancing and everything that I do is very much aligned with making sure that one, I'm a healthy, fit person, and so I can sort of be that model CEO, and then also not doing business at the cost of health. You know, if I have class in the morning, I have class in the morning, I want to do my yoga, I want to do my swim, and then I go in, and it keeps you a much balanced, happier person. Because you want to be happy on a Monday morning and you want to be happy on a Friday night. So you, especially as a woman, you know, you're going out on the weekend, you're wearing a nice outfit, you want to look and feel your best. You don't look like this tired, out of shape person just because you worked all week.
I know, most of the corporates are that way, and I think they should change their lives.
I don't know why. You know, it's actually where this starts from school. It's like either you're this pretty popular one or you're like this smart, nerdy looking one, and you can't be both. And that in India has gone to the corporate level. So they have this whole mindset where you see women who are just constantly like, or maybe it's a really dowdy outfits or some. In the US, it's a very masculine, androgynous way of dressing. And I'm just like, why? Our goddesses were wearing saris and then would have like one big spear in their hand and like, you know, taking on a demon. And then here when you come back, you have this very masculine Hillary Clinton vibe of dressing. And I'm like, why? I mean, you don't have to lose your femininity to be taken seriously and be seen as intelligent and be intelligent. And I think it's very important for women to maintain that balance, especially going forward. Because if you're not happy who you are inside, if you're not embracing the woman in you, no matter how many trillions and billions you make, there's no point. You know, you want to be able to have the money and the body and the opportunity to get and buy what you want.
Yeah.
You know, there's no point of saying, oh, I'm a billionaire, but I can't. I can buy every outfit in the world, but I can't fit into it. So I think I'm very, very passionate about women, you know, making sure they're balanced, maintain their fitness, maintain their happiness, and, you know, have a life that's a bit more, like, as I say, like a thali. Like, have a little bit of everything that you want in your life. Rather than this very, like, linear, masculine, Western approach.
Yeah, but speaking of that, you are also very big on fashion and luxury. Like, you worked for some of renowned designers too. So how did you enter into that category of things?
You know, I've always been that person. You know, people like think that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to be like this tomboy and like, you know, this very nerdy person. That is not true. even in school, I remember I used to have like below my Bata canvas shoes, I used to have like my toenails painted red, and I've always been a total girl's girl. So embracing fashion, embracing art, embracing design has always been my personal hobby. I'm not a sporty person. But I really don't watch any cricket or anything. And so for so much time that I spend in this space, it really, I think, brings that kind of color into my life that I love. So whether I'm doing a shoot, I launched my own perfume, I designed and built my own house, I walk the ramp, I spend a lot of time deciding like, oh my god, this is my look for the day. I think it just adds joy, and I think we have one of the most important parts of being successful is being joyful. And so since I meet so many people and, you know, knowing me, my personality, my interests, a lot of opportunities come to me from luxury brands. There was Burberry and Dior and Barley, and then jewelry brands like Zoya and Jaipur Gems, and there were all these fashion brands and all who were like, oh, come partner with us. So I mean, I think I did collabs before collabs were a thing, and it's just because I'm like, you know, why should women not be confident enough to embrace their feminine side just because they want to be taken seriously in the workplace?
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm so glad that you're able to, you know, balance both the things, because so many people struggle with it, and I fail to understand sometimes the reason as to why.
Because they've been told that you have to be either or. It's really not difficult to do anything in life. If you think it's possible. So for women, it's just they've been told that no, to be taken seriously, you got to be like this. Or for men to want you want to be like that, or like to be popular, got to be like that. And so women, I think, get slaughtered a lot, and that's unfortunately also creates a sort of sense of judgment and competition between women. But honestly, I don't think anyone should tell women what they should look like, dress like, as long as it's appropriate, professional, decent. I don't think women should be made into an old white guy.
Yeah, that's true. But you were also, you know, awarded by Forbes as the India's model CEO, right?
Yes.
So did it happen because of your interest in fashion and because you choose to
be the face of your brand? So this is actually very
interesting
that when I was building my business and the business had taken off, by then we were about 100 crores. One of our distributors and retailers suggested we take on a male actor to be the face of the brand. But it would cost me 15% of my company equity to give him to be able to pay his fee. And that's when I was like, why am I going to pay, you know, some actor my hard-earned money for like 2 days work? And then what happened is, I was like, secondly, why should I get a guy who's not educated much, who's singing and dancing for a living, as the brand ambassador for a brand that's global, that's classy, educated, run by a woman. So we were making a print ad for a new product, and there was a photo of mine that I'd shot for a magazine that my marketing team put in the ad. And it was interesting. Everyone was like, oh, this is great, just roll with it. I'm like, are you sure? Because I think it'll be a bit of a game changer. And what a game changer it was. It was the front page of the newspaper. I think most people, like, this was 6-7 years ago, were absolutely surprised. So interestingly, Forbes International called me, did an interview, and they created that sort of article that then became a hashtag, was the model CEO. It made me happy because I'm the first person in the world to have that tag. But it also made me sad that for so many years women have been told you can be either or. So then I got inspired. I said, you know what, now let me just roll with it and see how far and well this goes. And so the next thing, I'm doing magazine covers, ramp walks, collabs, marathons. I'm one day speaking in Istanbul with Richard Branson, next day doing something for Dior, third day, like, you know, shooting a campaign abroad or something. And I really enjoyed that. And I said, you know what, this is something that I definitely want to continue doing.
Yeah.
So even last year, like we did a fashion film for View. I launched a perfume. All kinds of stuff happens. But do not do this till your business model is not proven.
Yeah.
Your team is not stable. You don't have profit and you don't have control.
Correct.
Because a lot of young women today, especially with the advent of social media, their first approach is like, oh, I started a company, let's do a shoot.
Yeah.
No. You want to take a picture, so you want to put it on your DP or something, it's great. But do not be the face of your brand till your brand is not successful.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who owns a very popular restaurant, which is in his name, he's saying when you name a restaurant after yourself, it's a huge risk.
Yeah.
Because either you can be super successful or super flop.
Correct.
Same thing comes when you're the face of your business.
Yeah.
You know, you can be super successful or super flop, so take your time. I was 10 years into being an entrepreneur when I decided to be the face of it.
Yeah.
So don't like jump the gun and say like, yo, you know what, I want to be like every social media post of me has like #hustle.
Yeah.
Please build your solid business. Then
yeah,
be
that's
visible.
a very important disclaimer, because hearing you, people might just think that why am I not the face of my brand?
Yeah, please, no.
Good you told that, so that people can now focus on
And
their
you may
business
decide to change
first.
your business model, right? Like, so you may decide that, hey, you know what, this product is working, not that, or this audience is working or not that, or this avenue is working or not that, or let's change the graphic design and the color, the brand identity, or, you know, where we want to publish it changes. So what happens when you jump into being the face, you yourself haven't developed your business and your own personality just yet. So today most women look young for a long time, so take your time and do it when it's solid, as opposed to just small business and 3 posts or something. Like, do it, don't do it big.
Yeah, that's so true and so important to note down. I mean, it just made me also think.
Of all the things that I said, this is what made you think. I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of it. But I also want to, I saw your Insta story the other day where you got awarded at the Gateway of India, and you know, Ajay Piramal was giving you the award. You also spoke about the fact that he mistook the award for it being for your father and not for yourself. So how did you really feel at that point in time, and why do you think is that bias still there in people's mind that only a man can achieve this level of success and not a woman?
I think, you know, what has happened is a lot of India sort of needs to get with the program. People have this mindset of when they see women, you know, and all of us are all quite small and cute, they underestimate us. They just constantly feel that, acha, she must have inherited it. Like, when I was getting an award, he's like, oh, you'll come to collect this on behalf of your father, because they announced, like, you know, chairperson of View Group. And I was like, no, I'm the founder. And even when I was at the Forbes conference in Singapore in September, I gave my business card to this NRI uncle type, and he was just like, oh beta, your family has given you a big responsibility, you must value it. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm the founder. And then I was at a social party where someone said like, so when did your husband start View? And I was like, I'm the founder.
Oh my god.
And then I was at a party once where some young guy was, I don't know, trying to like be friendly. And he introduced me as View's daughter, and I said, no, I'm the founder. So I think one of the biggest challenges when people, they see women as owning small businesses, but they don't necessarily see them as empire owners. The next question is like, yeah, but it's a big company. I'm like, yeah, I know, I built it. So they just assume that if women are in business, they're kind of doing some like hobby thing. And there's a lot of bias. Like, there was one bias that, yeah, of course, people wouldn't think that women do something professionally. Now the bias is that, yeah, women are doing something, but it's kind of like a hobby business. So I think till you don't have a lot more women in the media who are not just built a big business, but are also the founder and also the major equity holder, these biases and all will be there. And I hope that a lot more women go out there, build the business first, then put themselves, so that people don't just see you and then make all these ridiculous assumptions. I mean, I understand it when I started out, people are like, oh, she's so young and so, you know, she's just started. But today I'm like, dude, like, I have a way bigger business than most of your kids do. And still you're going to underestimate me. So I'm like, when does this ever stop? I'm not going to grow taller, am I? You know, I'm not going to become this hatta-katta intimidating man. I'm going to be my size who I am. Can you please just stop associating power with masculinity and size and might. Power now has to be associated with intelligence, with drive, with personality, with leadership, regardless of gender, size, age, religion, background, etc. So I really hope that I really want to sort of change the face of power.
It's
and feminine power in India.
Yeah, it's a very important point that most of the people don't know that there are so many women-led businesses like yourself which are doing great and have reached
all
great
the time.
heights.
All the time.
And we need more visibility.
You're the founder. It's funny, but it's also sad.
Oh, they ask you this question again after knowing that you're the owner?
I mean, they're like, really? There's this element of shock and surprise. They're like, oh, so you brought the brand to India? Like, no, I started it. So it's just, I never thought that this bias would continue. And there'd be bias in some form or the other. But you know what they say in business is where there's a problem, there's a solution, and where there's a solution is an opportunity. So same way, where there's a bias, there's a breaking of a stereotype, and in the breaking of the stereotype is the opportunity. So for me, I've made it like my, what they say in Hindi, Urdu, wajood. In French, it's raison d'être, or reason to be, your purpose. That I want to fight and break this bias.
That's very nice, and I'm sure you're doing it, and with more and more stories, I'm sure we can also bring that out to people.
Thank you, I hope so.
Biases can only be addressed, when stories like yours are shared. So thank you so much for being on our show. Really
thank you. This has been a great fun chat. Thank you so much, and I hope there were more useful points for you.
Of course.